All right, let's do this.
Welcome to the Biz for Good Show, where we highlight misfits, outcasts, and renegades for the being good and doing good movement. We spotlight people that are changing the world by having integrity and honesty and creating an environment of connection, thus showing the true secret to success and creating a life of greater impact. So come on board and create your own Biz for Good life.
Welcome to the Biz for Good Show. I am your host, Bobby Glenn James, along with the in the house, Ryan Pilkington. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Pilkington in the house. Tell us about the show, new format, new things, doing new things. What do we got going on today, Ryan?
It's awesome. It's Good Friday. The weather is spectacular here in Salt Lake City.
Very beautiful.
You know what I'm saying? I'm here. We're good. We got a great guest.
We're here. We got a good guest. We got an amazing guest. Let's do this.
I did want to mention something on the way to work today.
On the way down the yellow brick road,
yeah,
something happened.
I passed. Now this might get a little dark for a second. I do apologize. I went past a cemetery.
Oh my gosh, that's so dark.
I know. But on a gravestone right there, it said "Startup." That was on this gravestone. I said, man, that startup died. Really.
Startup.
That was an honest story.
You saw that.
I actually
the guy's last name was
Startup.
Anyway. I saw a little bunny run over on the side of the road today.
Okay.
Yeah. That was sad.
Okay. We'll
little
move
bunny.
On. We'll move
Gosh.
on.
Okay.
Sheesh.
Wow. Ryan, take us down there. Yeah, let's do that.
Anyways, I just thought it was an ironic.
Startup. Yeah. Startups don't die. Yeah. They just go to a magical place.
They move on. Anyways, let's get into the show. We have Maxwell Ivey on the show with us, coming from Houston. Is that correct?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep, that's correct.
Houston, Texas, ladies and gentlemen.
A fellow Texan, my friend.
Yes, a fellow Texan. Yeah. Awesome.
So Maxwell is known internationally as the blind blogger and has gone from failed carnival owner to respected amusement equipment broker to self-help author, motivational speaker, online media publicist, and the host of What's Your Excuse podcast. He actually sent us a book too. What was the name of the book?
Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light.
Oh, I love that title. That's awesome.
Yes, yeah, we've been reading it.
Welcome aboard, Mr. Maxwell.
Yeah, let's get him on the show. All right. How are we doing, sir?
You know, I've always wanted to be part of the Wayne's World experience. Now I can tell my brother I have.
Hey, wow. That is something we have never heard.
Ooh, yeah, Wayne's World.
We get somebody our age in here. That's nice. Wayne's World. Wayne's World. Awesome.
I'm just responding to the entrance of this show, and I'm thinking, they could be, these guys, I don't have any way of knowing. Y'all could be in your basement. I don't know, man. I mean, but Wayne's World, those guys went from nothing to putting on, putting on a big concert and stuff. So who knows? But yeah.
Wow, we've put on concerts. Yeah, the parallels are big, Ryan.
Am I Wayne or you Wayne?
I don't know. They were both crazy.
I think it comes down to which one of you can play lead guitar, right? I mean, decide who is Wayne and who is Star?
Yeah, that's right. We both play rhythm, though, so that might be.
Yeah, you need to find a lead guitarist or something, or a drummer or something.
I play mean air guitar, though. Nobody can beat me at air guitar. Well, Maxwell, thank you so much for coming on the show, being on the show. I can already tell this is going to be a great show with the new format and stuff. We just want to know a little bit about you. So tell us, about you, how you became to do what you do. How did you get the success you have? I mean, kind of tell us your story a little bit so the listeners can kind of hear it. So we're just going to let you go with that.
All right. So I grew up in a family of carnival owners here in Texas. I also grew up knowing eventually I would lose most, if not all, my vision. I did become legally blind by the time I entered junior high school. I had light perception by the time I graduated from college. In addition to completing a usual education, I'm also one of the few legally blind Eagle Scouts. I was lucky enough to work in my family's business, traveled around the country with the carnival for 15 years before my dad's death led to the closure of our small show. And then I thought, well, I needed to do something else. So I started helping people sell their used rides. And of course, this was in 2007, which was before WordPress, Wi-Fi, or Facebook. And so I had to figure out a whole bunch of things that I'd never done before. Most importantly, I had to teach myself how to code HTML so I could get my website online and keep it maintained and updated and growing. So, as I did things, I just had to do other things. Like, I got a website. People said you have to have a blog. And then social media came along, email lists, recruiting clients. And, people said, Max, whatever you're doing, you're very inspiring. We want you to share more of your experiences as a blind entrepreneur. And that led to theblindblogger.net, where I share my experiences and the lessons people can take usually from my mistakes, but lots of good lessons. I've written 4 books, including my latest, The Blind Blogger's First Speaking and Signing Adventures, How to Conquer Your Fears. I've been on hundreds of podcasts. I help other people get on podcasts, and I host a show called What's Your Excuse? You gotta say that with attitude. And I actually got that from a 12-year-old podcaster named Izzy from Podfest 2 years ago. She's like, Max, you're saying it wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm saying it's wrong? It's my show. And she said, no, you got to go, what's your excuse? So where I interview people who have overcome adversity or thrived despite of difficult life circumstances. I also interview people who happen to be curious about or who inspire me. And the one thing that's been constant throughout the last 8 years is promoting my websites and whatever work I'm involved in through doing podcast interviews, having conversations like we're having today. And I've gone from doing that because I didn't have any other way to meet people face to face. I didn't have a good transportation options as a blind man living in the suburbs. So I started that 8 years ago. I did it when I was selling used rides. I've done it as I've been promoting my writing and speaking and other activities. And so I've gone from doing it for me because I had to, didn't have a choice, to doing it for friends and now doing it for clients. So I now offer services where I train people to be podcast guests and where I book them on podcasts and where I mentor them so that they get better and better each time they have a conversation like this. So that's the story. I hope that you've still got some time left. And, it's just an ever expanding, ever changing story, ever winding river. And I just wait to see what's going to happen next.
Awesome. Well, with that, that's cool. I mean, so you didn't go to join the circus. You were already a part of it.
I was a part of a carnival.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. Right. But we always talk about you run and find. So we did actually hook up with a circus for one winter. And so we were a carnival and a circus for about 3 months, but, it's definitely a different lifestyle because with a carnival, you go to town, you're there for a week, 10 days, sometimes for 2 or 3 weeks. And, with a circus, most the ones that are still out there working, you're in a different town every 2 or 3 days. Sometimes every day you're in a different town, So, and of course, being around the animals for what circuses still have animals is just crazy. I've got many friends in the circus world. I've learned a lot about that side of the business that I didn't know before because of helping sell equipment. Because when I started selling stuff, I'm like, everybody sells to the other carnival owners, but is anybody asking the circus owners if they need hot dog machines or frozen drink machines or generators or whatever? So, when I started my business, I'm like, I got to be different. So I've got to be global because most of the competitors are pretty much North America. I've got to be global, and I've got to think, other aspects of the amusement industry, like casinos, like zoos and aquariums, like the family entertainment centers with the go-karts and stuff. Even the new thing, agritourism, where, people pay to go pick their own produce. A lot of those
businesses have like inflatables. Some of them will have a few kiddie mechanical rides, and some of them have interactive stuff like rock climbs. So I'm like, I got to be different. I got to do stuff other people weren't thinking of, and that's why I've gotten to know a lot about the rest of the amusement industry that I really hadn't, was really outside my small world until I started the website.
Wow, that's interesting, and it's still a thriving industry today because you don't.
Well, it's had a rough year because of COVID, but here's the thing.
I forgot about COVID. I try and wipe that out of my head as much as I can.
I know. But here's the thing. So a lot of the people in our industry have been very creative. They've taken their food trailers and set up food courts where people drive through and get, fast food, Midway food. They've set up trailers to sell, stock, stuffed animals and other prizes that you usually win on the Midway. Whenever states have given them permission, they've opened. And the most important thing has been none of the finance companies want this stuff back. So the companies that hold all the paper on all those fancy rides you see at your fairs, they are basically cooperating big time because they would rather have that stuff out there working or potentially working as opposed to having it sitting in their yard. So otherwise things would be a whole lot worse than they are. The only good thing for most of these companies is they're not having to pay their insurance. They probably didn't have to pay their insurance last year.
Right.
At least not their Midway insurance. They probably had to pay the insurance that you have, like if somebody gets a bad bag of popcorn or something. Like what is that? Product liability. That's what I'm saying.
There you go.
Probably had to have that, but most of them, and if if they were operating fewer rides or rides that were less dangerous or less exciting, they could have dropped some of their policy for the year. So, but it's just one of those things. The industry has basically decided we're just going to get through it, and we're going to worry about all this stuff next year for the most part. With the exception of the really small companies, the people that own 2 or 3 rides or 5 or 6 games, or maybe have a small show of 6 or 7 rides, those people were pretty much out of the business because of COVID. But a lot of them were on the edge of going out anyway before COVID. One of the things that we learned really quick in businesses is you have to scale. So if you're small, there's nothing wrong with being small, but if you stay small, eventually you're going to go out of business. That's just the way it is, because the bigger operators will always have an advantage, or they'll create an advantage, or they will use the advantage that they've had for years because they were in other businesses before this one. So I like to look at sustainable growth. I'm not one of those people who thinks, hey, if I'm not making 6 figures, I'm a failure. But if your business isn't growing, if you're, I always say it's okay to be small, but it's not good to stay small, which is why the coaches and people like me and you, we talk a lot about scale.
I love it. Awesome. Well, let's turn the corner on this, Ryan. What do you think?
Yeah, so first of all, we've been doing this podcast for some time now, and it always amazes me the things that I learn from it, and the people that are doing amazing things, and no different with you and what you've been doing, and just thanks for being on the show. We're doing something new. We got the Will of Craylee.
The Wheel of Craylee.
And we asked Maxwell if he was game for the Will of Craylee. He said yes, so we're gonna do it.
Are you ready? You tell me when I am ready to spin the wheel. I'm gonna put it up on the camera.
How many spots are on the wheel, and do the words have colors with them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do have colors, and there's probably 30,
15 to 20.
All right, so here's what you need to do, okay? Have you spun the wheel? Have you spun the wheel yet?
Nope. There'll be noise and clapping.
I can't do this because I obviously can't see the wheel.
Yep.
What we need to do is to bring a little Carnival Midway flavor in here, okay?
Nice.
Even though I'm now an author and a speaker and a publicist. Okay, here's what you do. You spin the wheel, and then as it starts to slow down, you need to call out the colors. and then maybe even mention some of the words, not the whole phrases, but like the last word or two.
Okay.
So just as it starts to slow down, call the colors, call
we're
the
gonna
word.
use this.
Okay.
Pretend you're the guy on the mic at the midway, and
Get your dog here.
let's do that.
This is good. All right,
Get your Will of Craylee.
you gonna yell them out? You gonna do it?
Me or you?
Yeah, you,
Okay.
Ryan. You're the
Feel free to edit this out if this goes badly. Okay.
No, we don't edit on the show. Whatever happens on the show happens on the show.
All right. Well, good. I think this will be fun.
All right, let's do it.
Fun with this.
And we're spinning it now.
Let me do that again. And we're going up on
Green,
our
blue, red. What
is the biggest? What is the biggest business goal you've ever achieved?
What is the biggest business goal you have ever achieved, Maxwell?
Oh, my biggest business goal. I would say, and these goals change. I would say my biggest business goal was getting online and making my first real international sale. Because I had to go through so many struggles in order to get online in the first place. And when I sold my first ride, which was fun because I got a contact from Australia, and the gentleman was looking for a ride called an Astroliner, which was built in the 70s. And he said, I really want to have one of these, but there aren't any of them for sale. Can you find one? So I found him one. I even found him one of the 4 what were called Jules Verne models, which were used. They were 53-foot trailer. And so within a few weeks, this ride went from Lawrence, Kansas to Long Beach, California to Sydney, Australia.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was really cool. It was fun. I wasn't able to be there, but it was fun knowing that these people flew in from Australia to look at a ride that I had found. So this was like, this is like really validation that, that you can do this, So that was my big business accomplishment there. And then as far as a podcast, even though it didn't happen, intentionally, I think one of my biggest things for my podcast was interviewing John Lee Dumas and finding out he has the same fears that the rest of us do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We had him on the show.
Yeah, we've had John Lee on the show too. He also spoke at the Utah Podcast Summit.
Yeah, he spoke at our
He's a great guy.
I heard him at Podfest 2 years ago, and it was like, man, after I heard him talk, I'm like, man, Max, you're doing everything wrong. It's like,
JLD's got a lot of energy, man. That dude goes and goes.
Yeah.
He's a classic doer.
Podcasting fire.
Yeah. He wasn't running on high octane the day I talked to him, but we had a great conversation about it. The loss of his comrades during war, and the fear he had with his first few podcast interviews. It was a great 15 minutes. And the thing about it is it really fits into my brand. I like to tell people, if you don't ask, they can't say yes. And sometimes the ask is not really direct. Well, I basically made John Lee Dumas mad at me.
No, we got to hear that.
Yeah. I'm going to keep telling that story forever, man. He had been on creating a brand with Alex Sanfilippo, who's a good friend of mine ever since we shared the stage at Podfest in Pichacucha. And he had John Lee on his show, and as a good friend, I was promoting it to my social media accounts, because that's what you do, That's the whole point of that's how we live out here, We help each other. So, And John Lee responded, and I think he liked it, and I think he said thanks or something. I said, I'm just promoting for Alex. I said, and I would love to have you on my show, but I just don't think you've ever suffered. And and he wrote back, and I can't really tell. Usually, I could not tell the emotion of somebody who's writing to me, because with my screen reader, I have to go character by character to see capital letters, and sometimes I don't notice punctuations like exclamation points or whatever. So, but I could tell by this email when he said, the Twitter basically said, "Have you ever had a guest who had to go to war, lost 4 of his buddies in combat?" I'm like, no, never happened. I said, not only haven't had a guest, I don't think any of my audience has either. And so I ended up apologizing to him, but I said, if people take the time to look, they'll find out that you have overcome a lot, but you do not talk about it much, at least not, where the average person, the non-fan would know it. And so he said he was going to come on my show. And, I almost said no. I almost said, because he has a rule, he only does like 15-minute interviews.
Yeah.
And when I got the calendar invite saying that I had 15 minutes with him, like, Max, this is not you. Your show is 45 minutes to an hour. And I almost said no to him. And then, Alex got me off to the side at Podfest. He said, Max, JLD doesn't say yes to most people, and he doesn't give anybody more than 15 minutes. So if you haven't deleted that link, you need to go schedule your calls. But awesome. I'm just like, that's 15. That's not what I do, But thankfully, and that's another example of how I've managed to get here, because I surround myself with really good people, really smart people who are trying to accomplish things, and people in many cases who have passed right on by me towards their goals. So, I mean, I love his new Podmatch platform that's using artificial intelligence to match hosts and guests. And even though I am a publicist and I connect hosts and guests, I love his site, because I've learned that even on his site, you still have to send those emails or those private messages to get noticed. So, but good people. Alex, his wife Alicia, Chip Edwards, Adrian Smith, a lot of people who are quick to remind me when when I don't think I'm as good as I am, or if I start to think I'm better than I am. They'll remind me either way.
Awesome. I love it. Hey, we want to ask another question. So,
you want to spin the wheel again? Go ahead.
Well, I want to ask you a pointed, or not a pointed question, but how do you feel about goals? What do you think that? What does a goal mean to you? I'm just curious. Do you use goals? Is that something that you care about?
Okay. I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys, because this is my brand. This is how I live my life. Okay. Most of the best things that I have done in my career over the last 13 years, I did not plan. They were not my original goal. What happened is somebody came along and said, Max, have you ever thought about trying this? Or somebody came along and said, Max, I think you could do this. Or somebody came along and said, Max, I don't think you can do it, but I'd love to see you try. And for example, my first book was written on a dare. A woman dared me to write a book within 2 months so I could be part of an online summit. So a lot of my things that I've done were really out of necessity or entertainment or curiosity. So I would say the goal isn't as important as the doing. And I think this is why I've been able to do so many things, is because I don't really think about the goal. I think about, what am I doing now? What do I need to do next? And I try not to think much past that if I can help it. And I'm known for an expression, and maybe you guys will get it, maybe you won't, but most of the time people say, Max, that's a horrible thing to say about yourself, but I think it's really honest, which is, I'm not smart enough to be scared. For those who are trying to figure out how to take that, basically, I have a childlike wonder with which I approach most everything I do, whether it's eating a new food, trying a craft beer, or trying to figure out how to get a subscription form added to my website. It's all an experience, an adventure, a short or medium goal. But I don't really always get to, and maybe I would be even farther along in my journey if I had stated goals. But usually my goals are kind of temporary, like, publish the book, get the podcast out, figure out where I want to go on my next trip, and even that. I think a lot of times my travel plans are dictated by opportunities that just happen to come along. And some of them I submit to, some of them I compete for, and some of the people just go, hey, Max, you want to come do this? And I go do it. For example, I have been selected as one of the people who gets to spend a week on Idea Island this summer. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen or not because of COVID. I've gotten my vaccination, both shots, so it could happen. But it's a weekend. It's a week in a private island off the coast of Norway.
Wow.
You know, and basically I told them, I said, you know, I know that you want people to go there and have serenity and see the scenery and get recharged. I said, but think about it. The blind guy will experience your island in a way that no sighted person would, you know, from smells, from the breezes, from the sounds, both daytime and nighttime. And they were like, yeah, we can see how you could present our island to others in a way that most people wouldn't get. So, and of course, I also mentioned seeing it through the eyes of the other people that will be there. So I don't know if it will happen. If it does, I'll go. If it doesn't, something else will show up. I think curiosity and tenacity and perseverance and short and medium-term goals are more important than long-term goals. I think long-term goals frustrate and depress us, whereas short-term and medium goals make us feel good about ourselves and help us to keep going. And if you guys don't mind, I'd like to share my 4 questions method for accomplishing a goal, with a big goal. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. All right, I have 4 questions. First, what you want to do is you want to take the goal that you have and make a list of all the abilities and resources you'll need to accomplish it right this minute. Now, I will guarantee you there's going to be probably 3 or 4 times as many things you don't think about that aren't on this list when you start. Don't worry about that. Just make the list based on what you can think of. And then you want to take each item on the list and ask yourself these questions. Can I do this? If you can do it, then go ahead and take action on it immediately. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. Don't worry about it. Just go ahead and do that thing that you can do. All right. If you can't do it, can you learn how to do it? And if you can learn how to do it, then sign up for the course, reach out to the mentor, watch the podcast, read the book, however you can learn about it. If you can learn about it, then learn. If you can't do it and you can't learn how to do it, can you get somebody else to do it for you? And that could mean asking people as volunteers or interns. It could mean, like I have done many times, expressing your needs and having people show up that are willing to help you solve a problem or get to your next goal. It can be hiring people through Fiverr, Upworks, or it can be, you know, formally hiring somebody. You know, there's so many ways you can get somebody else to do something that you either can't do, don't do, or, you know, would be better off to have somebody else do for you. So if you can do it, go ahead and take action. If you can't do it, can you learn how? If you can't learn how, can you get somebody to do it for you? And if you can't, and if you can't get somebody to do it, then ignore it. Put it off to the side. Don't think about it. Take action on the things that you can actually have some amount of control over. And as you take action on the things you can do something about, you are going to grow as a person. You're going to improve your talents and skills. You're going to attract new people. And so eventually those things that you have over in that column of I can't do, learn, or farm out to somebody else, eventually you'll move them into other categories and you'll continue to make progress.
I love it.
Yeah, that's my 4 questions. And of course, every so often look at your list and move stuff around, because as you grow, there are going to be things that'll be moved over to the I can do it list, you know?
I think the biggest problem with goals that we've talked about many, many times is that you don't have a strategy for actually doing something. Having a goal is worthless if you don't have some kind of a strategy to get somewhere with it, which is awesome. I love this right here that you're saying. This is what we're talking about. Goals are great, but they're worthless if you don't have a plan to reach and goal.
And if you don't apply action to the plan, you know,
exactly.
There are lots of people, they know exactly what they need to do. The question is finding the energy or the courage to do it. And the problem for most people is while they aren't happy, they are comfortable with their level of unhappiness. And they are fearful that if they try to change their lives, that things could be worse. So a lot of people would rather stay where they are than take that risk that they could be in a totally different place that would be more joyful. And it's hard. You know, you build up a routine in your life and in your thinking over years. It's difficult to change that. The other thing that makes it really hard for most people is when they start to make changes, their friends and family start to pull back on them. You know, they start to all those negative things that people have said or thought about you over the years, they come up because if you change, then they either have to change or they have to have a smaller relationship, or maybe even lose a friend or lose contact with a family member because of your change. So, you know, you guys mentioned reading my book, Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light, A Blind Man's Inspirational Guide to Success. One of the most important thing that I did in that book was to include my email address and to encourage people to write to me and share their progress. And the reason I did that is because I know lots of people. I know you guys know lots of people. They've read the book, they've listened to the audio, they've went to a seminar, they may have even paid thousands of dollars to hear somebody speak. And they're still the same person they were before, because when they get home, it's still them against their friends, their family, their work, their dog, their children. In some cases, it's mental or emotional challenges. Some cases, it's living in poverty or in situations where there's a lot of socioeconomic drag against you. There's so many things that get in people's way. But the main thing is, I wanted people to have at least one voice where they could write and they could say, hey, Max, I got my 4 questions answered. What do you think about it? Or, hey, Max, I cut my social media time down from 4 hours a day to an hour a day. Or, you know, hey, Max, I've almost stopped listening to the news. You know, I wanted people to report on their progress. And I tell you, a lot of other authors and coaches said, you're nuts. People are going to take advantage of you and use a lot of your time that you won't get paid for. And I said, I don't care. The whole point of this book is not for me to make money. It's for me to help other people accomplish some of the things in their life by the example that they can get from some of the things I've done in my life. And so I really hope that, you know, more people will use that book and work through the exercises and make progress. And I love hearing the good news. I also tell people that you don't have to be willing to buy from me, book me, or hire me in order to reach out to me. I want people to use my contact form and visit my website. I mean, you know, it's theblindblogger.net, and my email is justask@theblindblogger.net. How much more plain can I make it that I'm not here to get rich? I'm not here to be famous. I'm here to help those 1 or 2 or 3 other people who are ready to be helped through my writing, my blogging, and my podcast. And that's what I think is the most important thing about that book.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Maxwell, for being on the show. So good.
Thank you.
So you gave a few links. Is there any other links or anything you'd like to wrap up with? How people can get a hold of you and that kind of stuff?
Right. Well, they can always go to theblindblogger.net. If they want to catch the podcast, it's on most of the players. They can also say, Alexa and Google Play, what's your excuse? And they can get the latest episode of my podcast. I've already given my email address. I'm Maxwell Ivey on all the social media platforms. I'm the blind blogger on Instagram, but that's the only place where I'm the blind blogger. So Maxwell Ivey. Go to the website. Search for the blind blogger on Amazon or wherever you buy your ebooks. Or hey, send me an email. I am more than likely. I tell you what, I would rather sell somebody a book directly than have them go through Amazon. So, I mean, I want to build a relationship. I don't just want to sell the book. You know, that's where I'm at.
I love it.
I hope this comes.
That's great. That's what the show's all about, and that's why we have people like you on the show. Thank you so much, Ryan. You going to take us out?
Hey. Just one more thing. Hey, guys, you know, I've been blessed to be on a lot of shows and get to share my experiences and my story. And really, without guys like you, there wouldn't be the blind blogger or what's your excuse. So I just want to say thank you for the time and the effort and the money and the preparation that you put into this podcast and the platform you've given me. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Wow. We are honored, my friend.
Yes.
We're honored. Yeah, so thanks for being on the show. We will go ahead and I usually take us out, so I'll do it as well. I always do it.
Of course.
This whole new format, it's throwing me off.
Yeah, it's throwing us off.
I tell you what, can I take us out? Okay, all right, cool. All right. Too many times we stand aside and let the water slip away. To what we put off to tomorrow has finally come today. So don't stand upon the shoreline and say you're satisfied. Choose to chance the rapids and dare to dance the tide. Thank you, gentlemen.
Sweet. I say we just end it right there, man.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Oh, I'm stopping the show.